wow, you know what? What if my thighs could just like really be in love with each other right now? And what if they could just caress each other and enjoy the feeling of the body, of the curve, of the moment, of the movement, of the music moving through my body. You're listening to Turn Your Soul On Radio. I am your host and visionary doctor, Dr. Brandy Victory, and my mission is to assist high-achieving women in closing the gap between feeling unfulfilled to living a life on fire. It is time, ladies, to champion our own lives and turn ourselves on. This is Living Victoriously, ladies. This is how you turn your soul on. Hello, ladies. How's it going out there in podcast land? I personally have been having a shitty day today. I'm just going to tell it like it is. I'm telling you, I woke up and just my mind was off to the races. I have a deadline for my podcast and I needed to format it and I needed to get it recorded and I got some web pages I need to build for another doctor and blah, 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 right? You know how your mind does that, right? So 4:30 in the morning, I pop up out of bed and I get right to work and then realize I'm not really getting anything done. I keep getting up against roadblocks and so I get real frustrated. And so I just start crying. Like it's 9 hours of crying, okay? Not just a moment of crying, 9 hours of crying. And I was just like, okay, I've got to do something to gather myself up because I cannot go through my day like this. So I popped into a yoga class, and usually, you know, my expectation at least is that getting through a yoga class is going to take me over the edge and help me bust through those little emotional moments that I get myself in sometimes. And gosh, let me tell you, it did not work. I'm not saying it didn't help, but through that whole entire class, I was shedding tears, like seriously, just coming right out of my eyes, dripping onto my mat, sobbing. It was so embarrassing. I just got out of there and I like left as fast as I could after the class was over so no one would see my freaking red face and left. And then I had an appointment to meet with my girlfriend for coffee and I seriously almost called her and told her, never mind, because you probably don't want to be around me right now. But I didn't. And I'm so glad I didn't. You know, she's a newer friend to me, so I wasn't sure. You know how you have that little feeling like, oh gosh, you know, how much do I want to share? And I don't want to impact anyone else's space and cause them to have a bad day. But all those little mind warp stories that were going on, as we both know, are just little bullshit stories to cause me to keep replaying the old story, the old program, the sadness, the grief, the upset, the I'm aloneness, I need a hugness. Like I was driving down the mountain to the yoga class and I was like, I just need a hug. And now that my boyfriend didn't give me one this morning, he gives me one every morning. But you know, sometimes we just need some girl support, right? And I didn't even tell her and she just was like, oh, let me give you a hug. So I actually manifested 3 hugs today from girlfriends, which was awesome. And I'm feeling so much better. But, you know, it took employing so much for me today to get myself back to a state of balance. You know, I did the yoga class. I hung out with my girlfriend. I had a yummy cup of coffee. And I'm trying to minimize my coffee consumption. So that was like a real big treat for me. I went to PT. I got dry needling. I went to Central Dance. So let me tell you, ladies, this is an awesome class. Like I've said before, it's like therapy and church all at the same time, but it causes you to show up. Like you have to show up in that class. And it's not something that I was wanting to do today by any means. I wanted to check out. I did not want to look at anyone. I did not want to talk to anyone. And I certainly did not want to dance. But guess what tipped me over the edge? Well, guess what tipped me into feeling so much better in my body? Yep, you got it. Dance. And you know, you don't have to go to a Central Dance class, but I would highly encourage you to turn on some music and shake your little booty. You might want to do that right now. Just turn on some music and just shake it around and feel your joy. You know, one of the things that she said in class that really it's when I tuned in, and she said, maybe your thighs love each other so much that they can't help but rub each other. And I was just like, what? How can that be? I was so not in love with my body prior to that. But wow, you know what? What if my thighs could just like really be in love with each other right now? And what if they could just caress each other and enjoy the feeling of the body, of the curve, of the moment, of the movement, of the music moving through my body. And it did it. It did it for me. It does it for me every time. That's why I go. But it took so much courage and to get up and make myself go to that class. So I'm just sharing that with you because I know we all get in those places, right? Where we're just like dragging. We just want to check out and we want to just crawl into bed or take a bath and watch a movie and not talk to anyone. And sometimes that's okay. And other times it's really, really important to drag ourselves by the hair, if we have to, out of those crevices that we sometimes get stuck in. Like I can tell you story after story about why I got there, but it doesn't really matter. What we need to do is like, how are we going to lift ourselves up, right? Like the name of this podcast is Turn Your Soul On. It's not Turn Your Soul Off. So we're going to turn our soul on, all right? And I just took every possible opportunity I could today to do that. And I seriously did it, all of it through tears. Like it was so crazy. I couldn't believe it. I haven't cried like that in a really long time. But you know what? It's all serves a purpose. I can feel that I'm making so much massive change in my life. And when I look at my space and my timeline, I can see that there's this huge roaring fire that's burning off. Like, the only word I can pull out of my butt right now is a karma. And I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's just like all this gunk, all these stories, all this stuff I've been holding on to, all the perceptions, all the beliefs, all the hoopla, the drama, and all that gunk that I've been living is being burned away, and I can feel it. And so a lot of these tears were tears of grief, of tears of sadness, but also just of the releasing. All right. There's no words that I can put to it. I was trying to tell my boyfriend, how my day was going today, but you know how that kind of goes through. A man's consciousness doesn't understand the feminine on that level. So get with your girlfriend, and make sure that you're connecting, because we don't need you going down the turn your soul off path. We need you to turn your soul on. Okay. So do whatever you need to do. That brings us to today's topic, which is how to prevent the winter blues. So I know it's not winter yet, but I just thought I would bring this to the table right now because it's coming to that point where it's gonna be cold, at least for those up here in Colorado and in the mountains, and in my people in New York and Massachusetts, and up in Oregon. It's coming, and it's inevitable that I will have multiple women come to me and say, "Oh my gosh, it's the winter. I always get depressed in the winter," and I'm going to tell you what, right now, it does not have to be that way. Okay, it doesn't have to be that way. So here's a few things we want to do to prevent that from happening. First of all, you got to make the choice that you want it to be different. Okay, that's number one. And then you got to be willing to employ the strategies that it takes so that it can be different. All right. So, I'm sure that we all know that exercise is an important way to counteract the winter blues. But the thing is, most people have a hard time exercising in the winter. At least a lot of people, if there's snow, like here, there's snow on the ground. I can't go for a run in the winter. I'm not going for a hike in the winter. I'm kind of new here, so I haven't got snowshoes, but that's my goal for this year, is to snowshoe in the winter. But beyond that, what are you going to do, right? You got to move your body. So I have a patient that's one of these women, and she gets the winter blues every single winter, and I've been working with her for, 2 years now, and I can see now she's starting to make a change. I can't wait till we go through this winter together, because I want to see how she actually does through it. What I'm noticing is she's now finally employing consistency in her exercise routine. She's employing consistency in avoiding things like sugar and dairy and alcohol. And those are important because when we're bombarding our gut and our digestive tract with those kinds of foods, they disrupt our microbiome. So when I say microbiome, it's the environment in our gut. It's the bacteria, it's the good guys that actually produce things like serotonin and neurotransmitters that keep our brain balanced. Like I think it's something like 80% of your serotonin is produced in the gut. All right? And so if you're killing off those guys or making them sick and they can't make the serotonin and the neurotransmitters that it takes to keep you balanced, then you're going to feel crappy, like you're going to be depressed. When I was coming off of my bipolar medication, I was working with a functional medicine practitioner, Dr. Robert Rakowski. He's in Houston, Texas. Thank you, Bob. Love you, man. So grateful to know you. And he immediately took me. Well, he didn't take me off my medication, but basically I replaced my medication with amino acid therapy, and that's essentially what we were doing, was putting neurotransmitters via a supplement into my body because my gut was so messed up, and my thyroid. But we got that all straightened out, and now I don't have to take amino acids, which is really amazing. So definitely get on a pattern where you're avoiding sugar and alcohol, if nothing else. And I'm not saying you don't have to ever eat it again. Basically, what I'm saying is cut back. And maybe you cut back and you only have it at the holiday. So when the family is there and you're having a nice meal together, and maybe that day you have the pie and you have a glass of wine. Or if that seems like a big stretch for you and you don't really want to stretch that far, maybe just cut back to the weekend. So Saturday night, I'm going out. Okay, I'm going to have a margarita and I'm going to have something sweet with my girlfriend, a piece of chocolate cake or whatever, you know. My feeling is that you should always be able to have something that's fun. You know, we got to have fun in life, right? And food and drink is fun. And it's what you do most of the time that matters most. So just start a habit now so that when winter comes, you'll be in the habit of treating your body well, and it won't be a problem. It just won't, because it'll be your habit. It's just like any other habit you have. You got to create it, right? And as far as exercise, I personally went as far as getting a treadmill for my house. So I have a treadmill here. I have a TRX machine here, I have a TRX straps here. I have dumbbells here. I have a Bosu ball. Like, I seriously have a whole gym outfitted because I want to make sure that I move my body every single day. Like every single day. It's non-negotiable for me, because otherwise my head goes into the toilet. All right. So exercise, avoid the sugar, drink alcohol. You might also want to get your vitamin D checked. A lot of times vitamin D goes down in the winter because the sunlight is what helps us produce vitamin D. So when our vitamin D goes down, it can cause us to feel off. So maybe get your vitamin D checked so you can know if you need to supplement with that or not. And using light therapy can also be helpful. Here, even though we get snow, it sunshines every single day. So it's easy for me to get in the sunshine. But it is a practice, because you don't necessarily want to go outside every single day when it's cold and get in the sun. But it's important, okay? But if you're not going to do that, at least get some lights. They have light therapy. I personally don't know of any because I don't use them currently. But you can look them up online. Light therapy for seasonal affective disorder is what that is for. So you'll be able to find some stuff on that. So you're making all these things a habit. And then the other thing that is really, I think, a big piece of the puzzle is to watch for different symptoms or signs in your world, in your body, in your choices that may be clues that you're starting to go into a more depressive state or an apathetic state. So for me, if I find that I'm not shaving my legs frequently, then it draws a question mark in my mind as to what that is about, okay? So I personally like to shave my legs, and I like the way my legs feel when I have no hair on them, when they're freshly shaved. It's a bit of a sensual experience for me, seriously. I mean, one of my little secrets is I have a fetish for razors. So I try all different kinds of razors because I love it so much, and I love the way other razors make me feel, okay? So if this is one of the things that turns my soul on. So maybe you can try it out. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. But if I'm not shaving my legs, it causes me to question, what's going on in my mindset? Because probably it's just an indication that I'm not paying attention to my body. And if I'm not paying attention to my body with the razor, I'm probably not paying attention to the body in other ways, like the foods I eat, the exercise, the meditation, the yoga, all the stuff. Like, I know I love doing that stuff and I talk about it a lot because it is a part of my life, but I do go through times where I lag on some of that stuff. Maybe, I don't have time to get a meditation in today, or I'm going to do yoga tomorrow because I'm working out today, and then I don't get the yoga done, right? So there's all these things that we have to balance and manage in our life if we want to keep ourselves healthy. But if I look around and I go, oh, wow, I'm not shaving. Oh, I haven't done yoga in 2 weeks. Oh, I haven't been meditating. Oh, I've only been in the sauna once this week. Okay. And then those are indications, right? And then I can look at those and course correct. The other kind of signs and symptoms that I notice, or you may notice, is I can get my desktop on my computer. It can get really, really messy. So it gets messy, but I'm also pretty good about cleaning it off periodically. So if it's not been cleaned off, then maybe that's an indication that, there's disorganization and clutter happening in my space. So if there's disorganization and clutter happening on my desktop on my computer, guaranteed it's happening in my life. So what do you know? My car's kind of messy. What do you know? I have this little cabinet where I put paperwork that's starting to get all stacked. It's like completely stacked up to the top right now, seriously. And it's something I need to address, because if we have a cluttered environment, we have a cluttered mind. And I don't know about you. Well, actually, I do know about you. Ladies, we are like taking this to a whole nother level. We got to create space for ourselves so that we can have smooth, graceful days, all right? Not ones like I had today. So look around at those things. The other thing pay attention to is your sleep patterns. Are you getting enough sleep, and are you waking rested? Or you feel like you're oversleeping? So some people tend to just sleep a lot during the winter because they're hibernating and they're hermiting and they're drawing back from society. So on that note, look at your socialization. Are you being social throughout the week and the days and the months during the winter? Holidays, we clearly are usually pretty social on the holidays, but what about when it's not a holiday? Are you still engaging with people? Like today, I had to make myself engage with people because I knew it was going to be a benefit to my well-being. And we have to do that because we need the support of each other. We need to be able to be held by our friends. We need to be able to express ourselves and be authentic and lean in on our support systems who are there for us, that we sometimes don't want to, but it's so vital. It's also vital for them, and it's vital for us if somebody else needs our support. So if you're not reaching out to your girlfriends, if you're not calling your people on the phone that live far away, if you're not going out and for a nice dinner or a cup of coffee with a girlfriend, make a schedule right now, get your calendar out, call a friend, and make it happen so that you keep yourself in the social loop throughout the winter. And lastly, what's your expectation? So if you tend to be one of those people who goes through winter apathetic, hibernating, hermiting, not talking to anyone, depressed, not getting anything done, then your expectation may be that that's just the way it is during the winter. And I am here to tell you right now that you have the ability to change that. That is a belief, and that belief is from the past. So if you choose to expect that to happen, you're just expecting the past to replay itself. And you don't have to continue to do that. You can sit down right now and you can decide for yourself how you're going to go through the winter. But since it's not your habit, you're going to have to take action to make it happen. So you got to start now. Make all these practices a habit. Pay attention to yourself. Get exercise, meditate, do some yoga, avoid sugar, reduce your alcohol, all those things. Watch your organization and all that stuff. And most of all, watch your mindset. All right, ladies, that is all for today. I am sending you a big, vibrant, wide, all-inclusive hug straight from my heart, and I hope that your soul is turned on. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Turn Your Soul On Radio. Go ahead and subscribe below, and if you feel it's worthy of a 5-star review, I'd greatly appreciate your support in this way. If you'd like to go deeper with me, you're welcome to join our private Facebook group, Turn Your Soul On, or take it to a whole nother level and apply for my 4-month Turn Your Soul On Masterclass. You're welcome to do this at drbrandyvictory.com. Whatever you do, turn your soul on.
This podcast is for information purposes only. Dr. Brandy Victory is not a medical doctor, and the views and statements expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Dr. Brandy Victory and the producers, disclaim responsibility from any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.